Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy. Welcome to another episode of the Meet the Candidate series for Cambridge City Council and Cambridge School Committee. We're very excited today to bring to you a first-time candidate. Federico Muchnik is a first-time candidate for Cambridge City Council. Welcome to the show, Federico.
Hi, Jimmy.
Good.
How are you? Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Of course. Good to see you again. And thank you for joining us. So, Federico, just give everybody a little bit of background on you. How long have you lived in Cambridge, and etc.?
Well, let's see. I'm a lifelong Cantabrigian. I have a history of community organizing and activism. I'm multicultural and I speak French, Spanish, Italian, and English as well. I'm a documentary filmmaker by trade, and I'm a teacher, a homeowner, and a parent. And I came to Cambridge in 1965, and my first residence was 11 Donald Street over by St. Peter's Field,
All right.
where I played baseball with the Cambridge Red Sox for about a half a season before I realized that theater was going to be my gig. And then I went to CRLS. I went to the Peabody Elementary School on Linnean Street when it was used to be there. And then we moved to Roberts Road over by the Cambridge Ringe and Latin School, and I went to the Pilot School, which was an alternative high school that they had at the inside of CRLS at the time. And from there, after when I started a family, we lived on Chatham Street, then on Harvard Street, and then finally here on Richdale Ave in Porter Square. So
Great.
I know the area pretty well, and I'm awfully privileged and lucky, and I love being here.
Great. Yeah. So tell us, why are you running for Cambridge City Council? I mean, with all those places, clearly you're steeped in the neighborhood, but why are you running for Cambridge City Council?
So, Jimmy, I've always been something of a community activist. Many years ago, I made a documentary on the closing of the Tasty Diner, and I documented that whole process and, learned about local politics through filming interviews with councilors and developers and citizens and so on, and documenting the end of that. And I'd realized that over the years that I had become a kind of a political documentarian, if you will. And there was a lot of overlap between, shall we say, listening to people as you're interviewing them for a documentary and listening to them as you're trying to develop a platform or a plank for your platform. And a couple of years ago, things started heating up on the public housing issue. And so some grassroots organizations contacted me, and we made a few films, and we realized that we were able to make a difference with these films, and we were able to really increase public awareness so that people could make informed decisions, if you will. And so that sort of lined up with my locavore, localist leanings, this idea that everything that you really need in life should be just beginning at your kitchen table, continue as you go out the door to have your coffee on the stoop, continue as you're having a conversation with the guy or the gal at the corner store, running errands up and down the street, knowing your neighbors, and really understanding that Cambridge is a series of very special and particular neighborhoods where you can engage and you can perform really what I would call good citizenship or perform your civic duty. So for me, running for councilor is really just an enlargement of that whole process, of getting in touch with what's happening in my immediate surroundings, not what's happening in Europe
Right.
or the West Coast or New York, but what's happening here and now.
Well, tell me then, what do you think the city is doing well, and what do you think needs to be improved upon?
Well, I'll tell you, they do a great job of taking out the trash. I love what they do with the utilities. The streets here are clean. Every time I call City Hall with a problem, I have a prompt response. I'm always amazed by how easy it is to get an actual talking person on the other end of the line at City Hall compared to the recordings I get when I call other institutions or organizations. I think our streets, our utilities, I think our property taxes, I think the city does a splendid job when it comes to, keeping the lights on. And I think it does a tremendous job with education and the high school, which has become this kind of national, landmark for where you go to get a good education. It's CRLS, which was not the case in the 70s when I was coming up, but now it's really gotten quite good.
Mhm.
So I think the city does a tremendous amount of good, and I can't begin to enumerate all of the things that it does. But you know, that would be sort of on the surface of it. What I see that I really like is that it works. The city works.
Mhm.
I don't get the feeling that when I want to do something either that requires some kind of administrative step that I'm going to be sandbagged, or if I need some piece of information, it's going to be hard to get. Even getting a parking permit
Right.
is has become so streamlined. So those are the
Right.
things
So
I
what do
think are
you hope
great
to
about
improve
Cambridgeport.
upon? How would Right, what would you like to see improved, and how do you think you would play into some improvements in the city? What would those be?
Yes, good question. So, um, I was thinking about that, and I've been thinking about that question, Jimmy, for months and months, and maybe even years without quite being aware of it. But I think what the city needs to do if you want to look at the wide shot from a documentary filmmaker's, to use a
Hmm.
filmmaker's term, I think the city needs to move away from uh, accepting the kinds of development deals that businesses are doing, and needs to move towards more housing. And I believe that the city has had a wonderful run of development and construction, particularly in the Kendall Square area, around private businesses, particularly labs. But there's enough evidence out there, Jimmy, that the labs bubble has burst, that we are going to be living with a surplus of lab space and office space in the coming years, and that this kind of asymmetry, if you will, between the business sector and the housing sector needs to really change if we're going to be the kind of city we want to be. So I'd like to see the city move away from, um, I, I don't want to say this is the wrong term, but I'll use it anyway, sweetheart deals uh, with the business community, and more towards uh, public housing, just increasing the housing supply in an intelligent and creative and rational way.
Okay. So let
Um,
me ask you. I want to get to all your points. So give me
yes, sir.
like 3 to 5 of your top priorities. What you would do, your 3 to 5 top priorities, if you were so fortunate to be elected city council.
Well, the first thing I would do is I would not um, apply something like an overlay to the entire city. I would really want to look at every neighborhood, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Mhm.
The specificity of every neighborhood demands its own sort of analysis and
In
report.
terms of
Um,
housing.
in terms of housing,
Right.
yeah, you
Okay.
can't just do an overlay the way the city has done it, and well, it's done. It was voted in last night, and it is what it is. Time to move on. But so I could speak more about housing, but moving on, I think people understand what my position is. Those who know me. With regard to transportation, I think the bike lanes are here to stay, and I believe that we all need to learn to get along. And I would like to see, because the MBTA is sort of the only game in town, Jimmy, transportation wise, we can't really negotiate with them. But what we can do is we can initiate our own shuttle-sized electric bus fleet and double it to create a fleet of buses, Cambridge, running from the Charles River up to Alewife, that can move in a more agile way
Hmm.
through this increasingly claustrophobic street named Mass Ave. So I believe that, and we make that free. I think the city can afford it, or at least we could try a pilot program.
Hmm.
And you watch, people will be returning to mass transit when these small, electric, more agile buses, twice as many, hit the road. And I think that's an entirely possible scenario.
Okay.
I also think we
Let
should
me
take.
just ask you.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to get all your points in.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so what organizations, if any, have endorsed you? So housing, you think it's here to stay? You want a more targeted working relationship with the specific neighborhoods, and then transportation, the bike lanes are here to stay. What particular organizations have endorsed you, if any?
So, yeah, I've had. The folks that I made the films for over at Walden Square, the North Walden
Hmm.
Association, endorsed me. Two organizations, at least, here in my neighborhood, have been very encouraging to me, and in fact, encouraged me to go ahead and seek out a seat on the council. Then an organization, the Cambridge Citizens Coalition, has endorsed me, and I'm on their quote unquote slate. Although, full disclosure, I don't necessarily share some of the views of my cohorts on that slate. I embrace the endorsement, but that doesn't mean I embrace the platforms of my cohorts
Hmm.
on that page. Let's see. I think that's
Yeah.
it.
So you
There's
got
smaller groups here and there.
two strong grassroots organizations endorsing you. And
Yeah.
in terms of community input, maybe you've already answered this, but I assume you'd be open to community input around the affordable housing overlay and the safe biking lanes. So there's respect for one another, both cars and bikers and pedestrians. Is that correct?
Yeah. Again, I think for me, Jimmy, I don't have a vision for the city so much as I want to be a messenger, a conduit
Hmm.
for the public. I want to serve the public good. I really, really do. I want to learn as much about something as I can, and then I want to make an informed decision. Of course, I have my preferences, and if push comes to shove, I have to make a decision. But I am all about, for me, the ideal job as counselor would be with a seat to spend my days walking around neighborhood to neighborhood, perhaps documenting it with my camera and
Hmm.
so on, and just really getting people to talk and making that kind of message available.
Great. Well, we have a couple of seconds left. Please, how can people find out more about you, Federico?
Boy, time
I
flies,
know.
doesn't it, when you're having fun? You are the man. It's federicoforcouncil.net. I just put up a video on parks, arts, and community this morning. It's great. I talk about how arts and parks can work together to create community.
And
Federicoforcouncil.net.
they can volunteer, they can get in touch with you, they can ask you questions, and if they wanted to, they can make a large donation. Is that correct?
Yep, $999.99. And
All
then
righty. Well, great to see you again, Federico. Congratulations on your first time candidacy for Cambridge City Council. Wishing you the best of luck, and thanks again for joining us.
And Jimmy, thank you. And thank you so much for all you do for the community. You are a real treasure. We so value your political humor. It's just priceless.
Well,
Thank you for engaging us all.
right back at you. Thank you, sir. All righty. See you later.
Take care.
Bye bye.